Welcome back to Crazy Lizzy Goat Farm and More. We haven't done a video in a while, have we, Susan? She's shaking her head no behind the camera. So I was making a quilt, so I decided I want to bring y'all along with me. So I found this quilt in Donna Jordan, and I thought it was really simple. And the other day, after I had all my problems and everything, and I was feeling better, I wanted to do something really simple. As you just sew, and you really didn't have to think about it. Because I was feeling better, but I didn't want to take up too much time to have to think. And so I got out my scrap box. You can see I got bunches of scraps in here. And this is a good way to use up all your scraps. Here it is. I went to Oh So Pretty and I went in there. They have these little bags that has just ends of material where they make quilts at. And I bought a couple of those bags, and I come home and I cut all my pieces at 7 inches. Well, let me show you how you start this quilt. So you take just your regular computer paper, and you got it, and it's 11 by 8.5. So we want to make it squared 8.5. So you line it up on your board. And you cut it at 8.5, which that's really simple. You don't have to really think that much about that. And then what you do is you draw lines on it 6 inches wide. Okay. So I lined it up on 11, and then I went over 3, 1, 2, 3, and I drawed a line. And then from 11, I went 3 over this way, 1, 2, 3, and I drawed another line, which you want to draw your lines 6 inches apart. And then, to make sure you got it even, you come in and you draw a line right in the middle. And this is your pattern. And you sew on this. This is your guideline. And when you set your sewing machine, you make sure you put your stitches really small. And to keep everything straight, this middle line right here, you line up your first 2 pieces. You just grab by your scrap box. You don't worry what color they are. And you start here and you sew them. So let's go over to the sewing machine. Okay, you line it up from here to here. You make sure you go past these 2 lines and start your first seam right here. And make sure you put your sewing machine at the smallest stitch they have. And then you take it, open it up, and you finger press it. And then you don't look, you just grab. Like I just got pieces over here, and you line this one up here, and you sew again. This is an easy quilt. You don't have to think about all the colors are matching or not. You just sew and have fun. Even though you have this little bit right here at the end, you want to make sure you cover that up. And what I usually do, I usually take a piece of my material and I cut it in half because I don't need to use the whole piece. And then I use the other half in a different piece. And you just put the pretty sides together and you sew. And make sure you finger press. And then finger press again. And we still got this little bit, so we got to find another piece. The only thing is I try not to have 2 of the same colors in one piece, one square. And you know, it's really good. If you have pieces that is smaller, that's good too. Bigger pieces, it doesn't matter. You just sew. Some of my squares has really small pieces in it, and some of them, like where I cut these 2 pieces off here, I can sew these 2 together and use them. So it really doesn't matter. And then the next thing you do, you iron them. And then you just iron it flat. Since this is a scrappy quilt, I didn't care if it had the little words here in it because I think it looks cool. Okay. Go. If you have a flat quarter, because all you have to do is just cut it in half, cut it in 4s, and you come out, because now we need a 5-inch square. But I don't have a 5-inch square right here, so I'm going to line this up first. And I'm going to cut it at a 5-inch square. And remember, you need 2 5-inch squares. I think it's time to change my blades. I think they're getting old. Okay, now what you do is you take your 5-inch square and you line up your ruler from end to end, and you mark a line. Whoop. This ink pen don't want to work, of course. Or you can use a pencil. Or you can use one of these handy dandy Arabic gone. And you do it to the other one. Or you can use a pencil, just whatever you have on hand. Okay, now you take your white piece of material, whatever color you want to use, and you make sure you have these lined up on both sides. And let me meet you back at the sewing machine. Okay, now what you do is you put your pressure foot right here beside this line. You don't sew on the line. That's just a mark for your pressure foot to line up with. And you go from here to there. And make sure you do the other side. Make sure your sides are lined up here. And this way, when you turn your thing over, your white material over, it lines up. And then you cut off the excess right here. You make sure you leave 1/4 of an inch. Okay, I want to make sure I leave 1/4 of an inch, so I take my seam line and line it up right here on the yellow. And then I trim it. Yep, time for a new blade. Now do it on both sides. And then you take it back to the ironing board and you iron it again. And then you just continue trim it up here. Right. Well, now I've got all the squares So now we're going to trim them up. So I line them up I line up this part on the line and I just trim. And then I take and I always turn it this way so the bottom will be straight. Now I want to make sure this is straight and this is straight and trim off the little excess. And I just keep it turning the same direction. Okay, now after you got them all trimmed up, then you take the paper off, which is very easy because your stitches is real small, and and it just comes right off. Until you want to do it on film. Voila. And there's your square. Okay, now we're here. We got all our blocks squared up, and now we got to sew them. We got them all lined up. The camera guy come in and made sure they was in proper order because you know him, he likes everything just so. So now we're going to take and sew every one of them together, line by line, and then we'll sew them down the other way. We'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, what you make sure you do, you line up these two white ones. And if you want to, you can pin. If not, you don't have to. That's your preference. And then you match the front, the top. Then you sew a straight stitch. And if it's not straight, close will be good. And I chain stitch. So I'll take my next two, I'll line this up at the top, make sure I line up the two white points right here, and continue sewing. So 2 at a time, and I go back and sew 4 at a time. So I make sure the white part, I make sure the blue. Then last 2. Alright, now all those sewed, and now I gotta sew. Right, all those so now I gotta start sewing the other direction. Ready? Okay. In this one, I make sure I pin all the intersections where the white sat in the middle, and I pin it all the way down. And then I sew it. Trying to make sure I keep all the where they sew together meet. Just take your time. Make sure they all meet. got that done. And now we gotta go sew the other lines together. Be back in a few minutes. Well, I didn't think I'd ever get it done, but it's all sewn together now. And it turned out to be a pretty big quilt. But it's pretty. So the next thing I gotta do is go around it with about 2-inch white, and then we're gonna put about a 6-inch border of this pretty green. And for now, Susan promised me if I got this part done, she'd make me some coffee. So I'm gonna go drink coffee and we'll come back tomorrow. Well, y'all, it sure has took me a long time to do this quilt, but I finally got it finished. I am so glad, and it turned out to be huge. But you know what? It really looks good on my bed. So it turned out to be about a queen size, oversized queen size quilt. This is the biggest one I've ever made. But I really like it. Hope y'all like it too. And you know, because it took me a long time to do it. But I hope y'all like it. To me, it's beautiful. Hey, if it doesn't sell this weekend, I might read it on my bed, because that's how much I like it. I hope y'all liked it. I hope y'all follow along with us as we make the quilt. But until next time, remember Jesus loves you, and He's always there with us. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave comments, tell me what else you want me to make. And until next time, bye y'all!